manager um, in the wrestling business, what is the psychology like of being a manager, and how important is it to the fans, like, to have a manager there that's involved in the product, you know, not just standing there at ringside? Like, was there any kind of characteristics that you brought to the table, or were you given much freedom in the managerial roles over the years?
I was given by a lot of promoters carte blanche because Maurice, I brought a lot to the table. I couldn't make it as a worker, but I could still get in there as a big guy. Back then I was 330 pounds, 6 feet tall. You know, now I'm down to 225, 230. I was in great shape. So I brought that. I wore feathers, the glasses. This has been the gimmick for years. And I was able to get in as a manager because I would take those 1 or 2 or 3 big bumps. You know, who's this big fat guy running around the ring looking like this? Kind of an oxymoron, a combination of my influences. As I said, I was raised and looked at guys like the Grand Wizard and Freddie Blassie and Gary Hart and so on and so forth. Like I said, Captain Lou Albano, Jimmy Hart, Jim Cornette, and even as a young man, those were my influences. And then I was able to pick their brain, a lot of those guys, and work with them. So I brought everything to the table, Maurice, when I first started. I set up the ring. I swept the floors. I helped sell, if I had to, concessions. Thank God that didn't last that long. I traveled 2, 3, 4 hours in a hatchback with other independent workers trying to latch on. And sometimes you didn't get on the show, and sometimes they used the workers that I was with, but they didn't have a need for a manager, or you didn't get paid. And that was, it was still almost territorial there in the early 90s. So I sold tickets, I hung up flyers, I did interviews. You know, I'm a guy that does pen to paper. You need a team, you need a village, you need a backbone in a company to spread a show. Each worker should be trying to get their family, friends there, and that's what's lost in today's business of the independent circuit. And I live right now in a hotbed in the New England Northeast tri-state area. On any given month, there's a half dozen to 7 different organizations running in this state. And if you went with the whole area of New York, New Jersey, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, in any one month, there's 25 shows in this area using guys from AEW and MLW and the NWA, and it's an impact. It really is a hotbed, and the stars that are coming out of this area. So getting back to your original question, so that's why I was valuable to anyone that I worked for, and I was able to have creative freedom. And of course, I have to thank all the workers that agreed to work with me. And then as it went on later, I would develop my own posse of guys that trusted me and knew what I brought to the table. And again, you can compare my work as a manager. A lot of it's up on my social media. I'm a cross between, I like to think, a little bit of everybody mixed with my own character, which was very over the top, as you could tell. And managers have lost their way. When I had a lot of success in the middle and late 90s, they were transitioning to valets and TNA. At one time, it was just Medusa, Sherry Martel, Miss Elizabeth, you know, Missy Hyatt, Precious, Baby Doll. That was about it. And they had their certain roles, you know, and some of them were great wrestlers too, as Sherry Martel and Medusa, but you didn't have a lot of it. And then you transitioned to, in the 90s, in the Attitude Era, and your Sonnies, and then the old school traditional manager, a la myself, because that's what I am, was pushed to the side in the business, and only a few people hung around. Your Bill Alfonso's came around, and your Joel Gertners and people like that, and it's phased out. And now, in 2022, it's basically Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
You look at the bigger organizations. Thank God AEW has brought back and used the legends in the right way, whether it be Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake, whether they're bringing back Taz, the different guys that they have brought back to give the rub to the younger talent and use them in those roles. I really enjoy that. So that's what I think of. A long-winded answer. This is what I do. I ramble. I go on and on and on. It's what I'm known for. But the manager role should be brought back. And that's where I think my career personally, as it affected me, got lost in the shuffle. And the psychology of a manager is to put your, yes, you're going to get a little bit of the rub naturally. That's not what you're there for. You don't want to overpower your guys, which sometimes teams and I and singles wrestlers didn't work because sometimes I was bigger than the worker, or sometimes I overshadowed them and brought too much heat. But make no mistake about it, I was a heel and brought heat wherever I went. And when I had people lucky enough for allow them to let me work with them, uh, you bring a lot on the mic and the physical distraction outside. And that's what I think a manager brings, having the emotion, knowing your spots. And listen, I screwed up many a time. There's a famous quote I use all the time about learning the business and emotional investment and ring psychology and getting the people to come back. Worked with Team 3D, Bubba and Diva and the Dudley Boys for the NWA World Tag Team titles. I was with Oman Tortuga, Diablo Santiago of the Outside Killers. Now, it was an independent show, but for a big group. You had a couple thousand people there. It was for the NWA titles. And I had my 4 or 5 spots with Bully and Devon. Ended up taking the what's up. They brought me in the hard way. Bully gives you the Dusty, boom, 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 bang. You get an elbow, and then he picks you up and body slams you. Well, after he gave me the Dusty, I sold the elbow because he really got me on the top. He took my glasses off. I went down like I was a tuna being pulled out of a boat, floundering on the deck. So I sold it. So he covered because he's such a professional, 2-time Hall of Famer. Busted open radio, the whole 9. He knew exactly, okay, Big Daddy sold the elbow. He wasn't supposed to, but you go with it. He took my glasses, came around, got me like the wishbone, Devon to the top rope, the what's up, and then wishbone, and we went right on, and nobody else knew it, and the transition was perfect. We knew it. As soon as we got backstage, within 30 seconds, there's, Bully, Bubba, and Devon. I said, hope it was okay. The match went pretty good. The crowd was crazy. And he said, Big Daddy, he said, give the Guardian of Chaos 5 spots and he'll fuck up 4 of them. It'd be a compliment coming from Bully Ray. So, just to bounce around here and different things and what the role is of a manager and how important it can be. And I hope it comes back for the younger generation. So I hope that answers it.
I think